Righto. Righto. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to today's open mic. I don't expect a massive turnout on this one like the last one, though the last one was great. Not gonna lie, best show I've ever had. Absolutely loved you guys on that turnout on this one. Sorry, on that one. But this one, I am expecting more of a smaller group to come in. But regardless, I wanted to open the floor for folks about the topic of Darktide. For those who don't know, the most recent Warhammer 40,000 video game. Well, actually, is it the most recent? Something else might have come out right under my nose in the interim, but certainly the most popular recent 40K game. And in a lot of people's minds, certainly mine, the game is an absolute flop. It complete trash when it came out. It was actually trash when it unofficially came out with the early release. I have a very low opinion of the game, to the point where I do describe it, and I'm pretty firm on this. I do describe it as a bad game. I think it, for sure, it is a bad game. I stand by that perspective. I hold that perspective. But this show is not just about people who share my perspective, but anybody who might think the other way around. Now, I have a myriad of reasons why I think it is a bad game, and I'm sure we're going to go through all of them throughout the stream, potentially. But rather than try and put it all here at the beginning, after all, it is a stream, so people are going to be joining here, there, and everywhere as we go about. So I'm just going to give my reasons as people bring up their reasons for either themselves not liking it, or if someone does like it and they feel I'm being unfair, then I could bring it up in that way as well. Like, I can explain myself as we go along. I think that's a better way to do it than me trying to onboard my full review, if you will, right here at the beginning. So, but yeah, that's my basic thoughts, though, is I do think very badly of this game. I think very badly of the devs. I always think badly of publishers. Like, my opinion of publishers is certainly not a good one at all. But Fat Shark did themselves absolutely no favors on this one. Even if we take out the clearly too early release, this has just been an absolute train wreck. And I'm not gonna sit here and say the game has zero merits. I don't think a game needs to have zero merits to be considered bad. I think a lot of gamers nowadays, their opinion of what is a bad game has significantly dropped compared to a reasonable level of, for me, I think a game can still function and be bad. I think for me, and it was certainly like this about a decade ago, but generally speaking, gamers agreed as a whole, a game was bad if it couldn't play. If your game crashed regularly, not just once, and then it never did it again, more than once on a regular occurrence, that was universally considered a bad game back in the day. Welcome, Nico 40K, to the conversation. How you doing? Might join for a bit later. Gonna have dinner first also to fix it later. Doesn't change fundamental game design that ruins the game. Even with fixes, Cyberpunk 2077 for a good example. Yes, you are absolutely correct, Nico. Also, for anybody else potentially waiting, let me share the link to the call line Discord if you would like to weigh in on this topic. Just jump in to one of the call lines and I'll pull you in. Waiting call number 1 gets brought in first, and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, as I was saying, this for me, and back in the day, that was the standard, right? If a game was trash, it was considered trash if it didn't play. If there were incredibly game-breaking bugs to the point of crashing in DCs, that was a bad game, full stop. Nowadays, people debate that. It's like, oh, well, the game crashes in DCs, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Well, I'm very horrified to see that standards have dropped that far for the majority of folks. It's kind of horrific to see standards take a nosedive like that, because when I was younger and playing video games, even now as I play video games, I consider a game that DCs on me on the regular is a failure, objectively. It's a bad game at that point. You can call my standards unfair, but I believe a game, when it comes out, should not DC and crash. Especially on my PC is not a terrible build. Mine's not like that many years out of date. I'm certainly not the top of the line stuff, but I have a GTX 2080 Super. That's only it's 2 generations old now, but that's still with everything else I have, with all the RAM I have, with the high power CPU I have, with everything I have in my PC that I built, it should still be at the very least able to play even the most graphically demanding games on like medium graphics. So the fact, and the thing is, even if we take that aside, like that might excuse the graphics thing, might excuse the crashing, but the match DCs, no, that's completely different. Disconnects are a server stability thing, and they should have had that completely ironed out before the game launched. Not to mention the myriad of other bugs. Cursor being stuck on the screen if you had more than one monitor setup. Let's see. Aggressive texture pop-in throughout the game. Not to mention just an absolute buttload of other visual glitches, sound glitches for me. Like, one of the most annoying ones I kept coming across was the game volume completely would cut, like, mid-mission. Like, not just music, but I mean, like, everything. Like, I couldn't hear the gunshots, I couldn't hear the character audios when they would have dialogue, I couldn't hear the gunshots, the music, nothing. It was complete silence for, like, whole minutes or two, and then it would just, magically, it would just re-pop in the sound, and I'd be like, huh! It's like a jump scare. So, yeah, this game came out in a pretty wretched state, and I'm at the point where, with how badly it came out, I'm writing it off as a bad game, and I don't care what anyone says right now, it is a bad game to me, objectively, right now, and I stand by that. A game that DCs and crashes as much as Darktide still does is a bad game. I don't care how good the loop is that they've designed the game around. If that loop doesn't work, or if I can't play that loop, like, what's the point? Michael Zelinsky, welcome to stream. When I read their statement, I was like, those are crocodile tears. But when I reached the point of suspend release of premium cosmetics, I was a little surprised. Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, they know they've screwed up so badly that they had to get some kind, like, they had to come at some point to acknowledge, or to at the very least to hit on something that's pissing everybody off, which is the cosmetics. I'm surprised they suspended them, but I'm not surprised that they decided to do that overall, especially when you consider how pissed off people are, and I stand by, rightfully so. I don't think them suspending it undoes that much for me personally in terms of this bad stuff going on. Alright, Mr. Bones is in the chat. I will pull him in, or her in, first. Mr. Bones, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hold on, let me lower you a little bit. You're loud on my... Okay, there we go.
My bad.
Are you okay? So, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing alright. So, what's your take with this whole stuff?
Oh, man. Dude, you know, I think personally, in terms of Darktide, where it's at, I think this is sort of endemic as the state of gaming in general. I mean, the fact that people can continue to put out games that don't work on launch, that crash, have major issues, but the cash shop works.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where I can't see where that could work across any other form of media. If you were to do this in, say, movies, you could go to a movie and you could buy all the concessions you wanted, but 45 minutes into the movie it stops and you're not allowed to watch the rest. Pay $15 and we might let you watch more. I mean, it's a straw man to some extent, but at the same time, you know, they're both forms of entertainment. You can't have one and just say, oh, you know, it's okay, we'll fix it later, you know, screw it, you know, if it comes out crap, you know, it is what it is.
I think a better not to say yours was bad or anything, but I think another way, at the very least, to put it is it's more like if you went to a movie and then halfway through the movie just turned into a slideshow of the what do you call those, the paneling of like let's say in an animation they do drawings of like each frame, the storyboards. Yeah, sorry, wasn't coming to me. But it's like if the movie was completely well and beautifully animated, and then like like a third way through the music stopped working, and then like 2/3 in, all of a sudden it cut to just storyboard slideshow. That's more what this is like. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
People don't and wouldn't accept that even remotely with a movie or really virtually any other form of media. There would be the universal response would be, okay, I want my money back. I'm not accepting this. It would be universally panned if that something like that happened. But in video games, it's perfectly okay for some reason. Like they can release a game with entire features missing, having alpha level bugs. I would say the mouse cursor being stuck on the screen almost a whole month after the quote unquote official launch for anyone who had a multi-monitor setup for their computer was absolute trash.
Oh, 100%.
Like the level of this nonsense and this disrespect to their customer base. And the thing is, it's not even like Fat Shark are alone in this. It's the whole industry.
No.
And it's getting out of hand. And what I think the real problem isn't necessarily... the real problem isn't really the studios or the publishers. They're just doing what they're being allowed to do. The player base... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like with loot boxes and monetization. I mean, it's all... We're the ones at fault because we allowed it for so long. You know, when Call of Duty wouldn't release and have this big cash shop with $20 skins if nobody bought it. But unfortunately, people dump all their money into these microtransactions. And I mean, even if you have one person spending a couple thousand on it, I mean, the company thinks, oh, well, everyone bought the game. We got our money anyways. So what the hell?
Yeah.
So, no, I agree. It's a player issue. I mean, we allowed it and we continue to buy these things. And all we do is hop on forums and say, your game sucks. I hate it. Wish you would refund. But that's not really fixing the problem.
No, and that's sadly the thing is this will not stop as a trend and as a methodology in the industry until gamers and the player bases of these studios and these games stop falling for it. And the thing is, I think that would actually start to happen if some of them didn't swing the other direction. Like, if people were just kind of like silently accepting it, but we're starting to get annoyed with it, I think they could be convinced to stop purchasing the product and stop advocating for it. But the problem isn't that as much them as it is the people who go full on defense mode for the studios and for the developers and the publishers. Like, those are the biggest problem, and they're going to be the reason this takes so long, because they aggressively defend these games. Like, for example, with the mouse cursor bug with Darktide that I mentioned before, I had that issue for a whole month after launch. And when I mentioned it during the beta, the early access quote-unquote beta, which really wasn't, it was I said this in my video, it wasn't a beta. It was literally just an early launch. Anyone who called that a beta was a fool. But
oh no, crack smokers, man! You are high on some copium with that.
You're definitely doing something that ain't healthy for your brain.
No, but it's the same way with a lot of games. I remember. I mean, my most recent example outside of Darktide is the newest Call of Duty. I mean, we got the beta. We got the beta a month before it launched, and anytime you mentioned something that was wrong, everyone would immediately tell you in Steam forums or wherever, "Oh, it's just a beta, man." And it's like, bro, how much do you think they're gonna fix in a month? It takes them like 6 months to give you 2 multiplayer maps. You think they're going to fix all the major game-breaking issues in a month?
Actually,
I
they're
don't
kind of
think
making
so.
it worse because last night I streamed that on my gaming channel, and you
Oh,
want to know how bad the latency spikes were after their most recent update? The game got
oh man.
worse with an update, not better. Oh man.
That's just it's awful. And but once again, people accept it. We've been conditioned over time. Hell, I remember when it was the biggest issue of the day was the day one DLC for Mass Effect 3. That was the big controversy. Is that might have to pay $5 for some DLC day one. You know,
It's amazing how that shifted.
right? And it's because we just accepted stuff like that, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And all we do is rail on the game. And I mean, but they're just platforms for shitty cosmetics. I mean, that's all they turned into.
Yeah, and thing is,
And you can tell that was them playing with Darktide.
Oh yeah, I just look at what they prioritized in
Right.
development. What came out that worked on day one? Was it
The cash
was
shop.
it exactly? It was a cash shop. It wasn't the core gameplay loop, which in my most recent video talking about this and being honest about thinking because I stand by my take. I think Darktide is a bad game, but my criteria for a bad game is: does it crash? Are there DCs if it's an online game? The answer is yes to both of those, or even one of those questions. I think that's an objective truth to call that a bad game. And the defense that some people brought up in my video, in the comment section, was, oh, but the core gameplay loop is amazing. Okay, great. How does that help if in the middle of that loop, I don't get to experience it because the game DCs or because it crashes? The loop can be amazing, quote unquote, in my opinion, in theory, but if I can't consistently play a whole match without having the entire thing DC, then I can't enjoy that loop.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
And people, that's the other problem I see is when when it doesn't affect them, but it affects you, and people want to write that off as if it's just a nothing burger. Well, oh well, it works for me, so it must be fine.
I hear that a lot,
Oh,
especially with Darktide.
It's awful. It's awful. I'm not saying that everybody needs to have this saintly level of empathy for other people, but if it's common enough that you see it almost every day when you're looking through the Steam forum or anything like that, it's still an issue. And
At that point, it's not really, because at that point, it's not even really like an empathy thing with like the few people. No. If there's a sizable amount of people having these issues, it's an intellectual dishonesty for me anyway.
Yes.
I consider it intellectually dishonest if you then write it off because you're not having a problem. That's
for sure.
Yeah, I don't care if you're empathetic or not to people who are having issues on it, but you have to be honest with yourself. Like, okay, there's this problem with this community in this game. I have to acknowledge it as that. If you don't, when there's again just this factual laundry list of people with issues, then that's intellectual dishonesty. It's not even really an empathy thing. So
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No. And
oh, go ahead.
no. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's another caller waiting. So
No, that's good. I'll hop out of here. No, it's been great talking to you, man.
yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna pull in Ludus. How you doing, my baba? How you doing?
I am doing fine. How about you?
I am doing fine.
So I went through my Steam library, which, as much as I hate to admit it, is a bit expansive. And I did a little bit of digging because there was something interesting that you and Mr. Bones said that made me think, talking about how there's this fix-it-later mentality with the game industry currently, and I 100% agree with that. Good examples of this have been any Bethesda game, Cyberpunk 2077, No Man's Sky, but there are a couple of cases where fix-it-later worked. Mainly, see No Man's Sky. They took a big fat nothing burger and actually turned into a decent game. But here's what I went to look for. In my current library, I have 3 games that are still in early access, and one that is just under a year old.
Before we go too much further, can I touch on the No Man's Sky point?
Yeah.
With No Man's Sky, I stand by that. I thought that game was a bad game on release. Now, for a No Man's Sky, I still don't play it now because I was burnt when it came out. The thing is,
you are that person.
I am the person. I hold games to how they launch. For me, I want my first impression to be the correct impression. I shouldn't have to wait for a game to develop after it's asked me and took my money for it to become the game I paid for. When you pay for something, you should get it immediately after. That is what is important to me. And if you cannot do that,
like back in the 90s.
yeah, like for me, that's just so important. And I hold to my first impressions. Now, I will say I'm a little more forgiving of No Man's Sky versus Fat Shark because of the developer attitude. The developers of No Man's Sky just went to work and they worked hard on it. When all of us learned about the full story from, I think most of us, from Internet Historian, I don't think there's a single person, even as much of an asshole as I am about that first impression, I don't deny that I was touched by how much they went back to work. Another reason I kind of forgive them a little bit more than, let's say, Fat Shark is not only their attitude and their work ethic, but also they were virtually an indie studio when they started on the project. They weren't AAA, they weren't AA, they were a group of people.
Indie.
Yeah, they were indie. So for me, there's more behind that to forgive. Fat Shark is AA, as far as I've seen for all of their stuff. They have a decent sized studio.
And my argument wasn't so much for that, it was just with Cyberpunk 2077 and with No Man's Sky, there was this fix it later, and with No Man's Sky they did, and with Cyberpunk 2077, they have, for the most part. I think there's still a couple of bugs, but nothing major left from the last time I looked into it. But what I thought was fascinating is, like I said, I have one game that's less than a year old, and that's Monster Hunter Rise. And this reminds me of getting a game back when I was younger, maybe less so because it has like a whole campaign DLC added on, being Sunbreak. But it reminds me of the full game on release experience. Now, the 3 that are in early access, all ironically work better than any of these release date games like Darktide, like Cyberpunk 2077, like games like that. And what's funny is when I get to the last one, I know you're going to groan. Ruin Arch, which is RimWorld in reverse, where you are the one fucking with the colonists. Satisfactory, and 7 Days to Die. But, of course, 7 Days to Die has been in alpha for, a decade now?
I hate that game, so...
I know you hate that game.
Passionately.
But it's still the point of, I have more respect for Fun Pimps for keeping 7 Days to Die in alpha if it's not where they want it to be, than I do for someone releasing hey, here's our game, it's complete. Oh, shit.
I will say that is something I would agree with to an extent. One thing I do have a problem with in the industry right now is there are a lot of people and studios doing the whole early access thing. And for indie devs, I'm totally cool with it. I get why. Like, it makes perfect sense. There are some AA and AAA devs trying to push early access games as well, though. And my fear is we're going to get to this point where they completely throw out the idea of a complete release game, which I don't want to happen. I want games to be developed in the background, given a full makeup, full workover, full QA testing, and then given to us in a complete state. I don't want to constantly see every single game that comes out be this early access type deal and then slowly asking for full price, mind you, and then slowly patching into the game that we want. And whenever it's criticized for its shittier elements, the early access defense flag is constantly thrown up, which I'm getting tired of seeing to an extent for some games. I want full, complete games, and you know, I can. The thing is, there are also certain game types work for early access, but I think others should not be early access. For example, single player, like open world action adventure style games. I don't want to ever see one of those be in early access. Short of indie devs, I don't want to ever see a AAA dev try and throw one of those at me for early access. Bullshit. No, make a complete game, then launch it. If it's a game like you use Satisfactory, right? Like a game that is a construction game, and there's elements of verticality with that, and you know, you're literally building the world around you. So there's stuff that the devs might not have thought of when they were developing in the background. So if they put it up with early access, not only are they getting it out to the public early and making money from it, but it's also a chance for the public to add ideas. Not beta test it for them, well, it is a beta test, but also give them ideas that they can add to the game, and it won't be considered like patching something into a finished game as much as it is just adding to an unfinished one. That works for that type of game. Any game that regularly can be added to, I think, can work in an early access format. But it's just those single player adventures, hack and slashes, hell, even ARPGs. I want those to be full releases for the most part. Less so that last one. ARPGs, I can see that early access. But you know,
I'm looking. I actually, because of the talk we were having about Satisfactory, I tried to do some digging, and I wouldn't quite call them indie, but they're not AA either. They're like some weird mesh in between. They have 7 teams. They have 7 separate teams.
Wait, they have 7 separate teams or 7 people on the team?
No, 7 separate teams.
That sounds AAA. Wait, how many people are in each team?
It varies. The publishing team alone is 15. Just for publishing.
That's a lot of people. I know. Typically, indie devs are categorized by the differences between indie, AA, and AAA. Both come in budget form, experience form, and numbers. The thing we can very easily look at to determine if a studio is indie, AA, or AAA is the number. AA studios typically are made up of less than 40 people. Indie is usually made up of less than 20, less than 15. Typically.
Okay, they're right at 40.
Okay. So that'd be AA.
AA. Okay. But I mean, still, for a AA, with a game like Satisfactory still in early access, you can't really fault that because there are only 40 people across 7 teams. Like, and if you look at Satisfactory, I would even challenge that some of the graphics in it, though sometimes get janky, are better than something like that you could see from a AAA developer, and I'd even go so far as say some of the stuff that I've seen from Darktide. Granted, the stuff I've seen is also from YouTube videos because I don't own it, but I would go as far as say as there is that AA with such a smaller team compared to Fat Shark, putting out better graphics and more stable.
Yeah. I think, and to be fair, to give Fat Shark a little bit of leeway here, it's not changing any of my opinions, but I want to acknowledge it. They were bought by Tencent. So that is...
No, that's just why the cash shop worked first.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta know the folks at Tencent were, hammering them down on that. It's like, your development, send me update. And they sent the update to Tencent. Everything was absolute dog shit. They're like, we don't care about this. Wait, cash shop. They said the cash shop, it works perfectly fine. Like, okay, release game. What? But the game's broken, a piece of shit. We don't care. Cash shop work. Release.
I mean, I hate saying it pretty much. Well,
I'm gonna be crucified for being racist.
This is something else that I can give a little bit more. And this is going to be probably a debate me and you are going to have later on down the road. I can actually give more credit to. I'm trying to think of the developer, and I can't. But of Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077, than I can Fat Shark and Darktide, is because Cash Shop worked first. At least with Cyberpunk 2077, they didn't go quite that scummy.
Yeah, that's fair to point out. Yeah, Cyberpunk didn't.
Like, not trying to be that dick, but I'm going to be that dick.
That's fair. All right, Havor's waiting in call. Is there anything else you want to leave off on, bud?
No, just like I said, I think it's like Mr. Bones said, there's this bad culture going around to putting everything early access. I think that should have stayed for indie, but there are a bunch of AAA. I'll say it like AAAs that are jumping onto it. Some cases AA, it's okay, but we'll see where it goes.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good one. And oh shit. All right, we'll talk later. Okay, 27 didn't have a cash shop. No, that's what he was saying. Darktide did have a cash shop, whereas Cyberpunk 2077 didn't. So when it comes to like looking at the two games in context with like their unfunctional, broken ass release, the reason one would be more forgiving of something like Cyberpunk is because it just asked for $60, which is still a lot to ask for an objectively bad game, which I do think Cyberpunk is a bad game from its release. Again, I do have a couple of exceptions where I break this rule of mine, but generally speaking, if we look at all the games I've played over the years, the vast majority that give me a bad impression when I first play them, I don't play them again, and I don't usually give them that second chance. A good example would be Necromunda Hired Gun. That game came out absolute shit. I think I attempted to stream it on this channel, actually, if you guys go back in my stream timeline. I played that when it first came out, and I attempted to play it again, I want to say 3 to 4 months after its release, and it just would not stream. It was an absolute graphics hog. The executions looked absolutely ugly as all hell. Generally speaking, it was garbage on release, and I still hold true to the idea that it's a bad game. Again, my criteria for bad game is, does it crash? The answer is yes. Automatic 4 out of 10 in my book. And does it DC if it's an online-focused game? If yes, it's a trash game. Like, my criteria is very straightforward. Like, I think if you cannot fail at those two things, then we can talk about the nuance of it being bad or good. But if you can't pass that basic expectation, then it's, again, I stand by it. That's an objectively bad game. Alright, I'm gonna drag in Havur. Havur, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing perfectly dandy.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on a time crunch, so I'm probably gonna speak fast and not be too long.
Okay.
But I saw Darktide and I clicked it immediately. I absolutely agree that they 100% should have waited off until it was a polished product. Absolutely 100%. Shouldn't have had the cash shop in there working before they fixed everything else. That being said, I still enjoy the gameplay, but that's mostly because I'm playing with groups of 2 or more. So I have no idea what the single player experience is queuing up. I can't attest to that. I'm certain that is probably worse, to be honest. But I'm always in groups of 2 or more, and we're always just memeing, like running around and memeing, and trying to get like funny shit to happen. So
I played in both. I did both experiences. I played by myself for a good chunk of time, and I played with friends when it first dropped, and a little bit after that. So I can tell you there is. It has the same problem as any game of this type, where it's a group, team-based shooter. If you don't have friends or people you can communicate with fluidly, its experience is harmed quite a bit. I think Darktide and Vermintide 2 are terrible games to play single player. Like they're just, it's not that you can, but it's miserable.
It's gonna suck, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're just getting thrown with like 3 strangers and hoping that something good is gonna come out of it.
Yeah, and
especially
it's a roll
like,
of the
higher,
dice.
higher levels.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice if they're competent as well, because oftentimes you'll get a team that don't even try and use the in-game methods of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And I cannot attest to the crash problems because I like you said, people saying crash problems don't happen for them isn't necessarily mean that somebody else's gaming experience should be perfectly fine and they should love the game. I just can't attest to that problem personally, and I'm sure if it happened more, it would absolutely be way more miserable for me. Now, I have had the latency spike, and I thought it was just my new computer build. So I'm glad to know that that isn't just me, but also sad to know that it isn't just me.
Oh yeah, it's annoying. Like, yeah, for me, I've had massive crashes. So let me ask you this: are you on PC or you're on? Well, you said you build. So okay, so yeah, I'm on PC too. So I was about to say if it was console, maybe that's why. But generally speaking, my experience on PC has been dreadful. I've had my last count, and it's the final count because I'm not playing it again. I've had 39 crashes and 47 DCs.
Ooh, that's terrible. I could absolutely understand why if this was happening to people other than me and like lots of people, which I think it is, why that would be an absolute miserable experience, and they should have fixed that before it ever hit the market. So
yeah. And some of the bugs and issues are stuff that were our beta level, and then there are some alpha level issues that they didn't fix forever, like the cursor being stuck on the screen if you had multiple monitors. There's a lot of stuff in there that the game just didn't feel like it was QA tested whatsoever.
I never had that issue with the multiple monitors. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah,
so I'll have to look more into that.
As far as I've looked into it, it's an issue that was caused by multiple monitors, but it wasn't universal. And I think that also brings up an interesting debate when it comes to Darktide is the reason there's so many people who, and it's not even just a claim, I think people mean it when they say it, is that they don't have any issues, whereas other people do. I don't think the game that's handed to one person is the same game handed to another. It generally feels like, and I don't have any proof of this, I didn't compare the game code I have to other people's, but with how much variation there is in the bugs experienced, glitches experienced, crash numbers, DC issues, things like that. And the number of times you hear that differ between person to person, it feels like the code of the game...
A totally different game.
Yeah, it feels like the code of the game completely changes from one customer to another. So I don't know how true that is, but it's even that in and of itself is troubling.
That's major inconsistency. That is a blatant just issue that is very big. I hope now there are some glitches that are pretty funny, like the dog eating itself in the space, that I hope never that aren't so much a performance issue, that are actually kind of funny, that I hope I hope just stay funny and not performance issues. Because I mean, have you seen the dog just yeet into the nowhere land, into the map, into the sky?
I saw the Pox Hound yeet through another player through a wall.
Yeah, we've had some now. Like, as long as it's not causing like performance issues and stuff, like I don't really care about that stuff. But one time we had a Beast of Nurgle just decide that he wanted to nope out, go into the wall, and then it just everybody's game crashed. But that was open beta, so it hasn't happened since. But like stuff like that obviously is way more of an issue in my opinion.
The thing is, most of my crashes didn't actually come with some kind of warning like that. Like, it wasn't like one moment I was playing and then something crazy happened and then it crashed. for my experience, most of my crashes happened when I was just doing something basic or mundane that I'd been doing the whole match. Like aiming down sight. Game would freeze. I'd be like, okay. Then it would crash.
Yeah, I've had some issues with the launcher, but that was resolved. Because they actually apparently that issue was pretty common, so they had it on their like their help fac area, fax area. But I mean, they shouldn't really have issues with launchers in their like that kind of what they had shouldn't have happened.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna completely agree. I think it would have been way better if it was more polished. If there were more missions, there's like penances in there that are like attributed to missions that don't even exist. So
Yeah. And the thing
like,
is, go ahead.
I was gonna say like if there's a little bit more dynamic, maybe a little more like enemies to fight too, like not like more enemies, like different types of enemies. That would be a little more interesting too. Because as it is, there's no like story progression or really anything. I mean, that's I guess a horde game issue, but like it can be a little repetitive. Like that's why I just started meming in it and like going on meme runs.
Actually,
to capture the most ridiculous.
Yeah. Actually, that was always my issue with Vermintide 2. The thing is, a lot of people like point to Vermintide 2 as like an awesome game or great. I actually might have a minority opinion on this. I don't think Vermintide 2 is a good game either. Well, I'd call it a decent game. Now, in that case, I can call it that because I didn't play Vermintide 2 when it launched. So I didn't. My first impression of Vermintide 2 was after it had been fixed up quite a bit. So, but if I had played it day one, I probably wouldn't have played it again. But regardless, I consider Vermintide 2 a decent game, but I don't ever play that solo. And it's kind of the same thing with, well, any horde shooter I could think of, or any group player shooter. I don't like playing any of those types of games without my friends, because it's just not fun. Most of the time you have to rely on your other teammates, and if you're playing with bots are oftentimes dumb and don't at all do things that they should. And if you play with randos, it can almost be worse because they do things, but they do harebrained stuff that an AI wouldn't even do. So I mean,
that could just be the team gaming experience too.
It is very much.
We've all seen the potato player.
Yeah. And I think Vermintide 2 is a decent game, but the reason I probably wouldn't call it a good game or a great game is any game that relies on you to play with friends to get the most out of it, I think shouldn't be given that much credit, because throwing rocks by the river with your friends is fun. You know, you shoot the shit, you talk shit, call each other names, meme, joke around. Anything with friends is automatically fun. I mean, that's the inherency of playing with friends.
Yeah, it's riding on the coattails of social interaction.
Yeah. And the thing is that when you take that away, it hurts the game. So that's why I think Vermintide 2 is a decent game. The hack and slash gameplay elements are fun, but take away your friends and you just play by yourself, and like with randos and stuff. How good is the game really if you play for like an extensive period of time? It gets old very quickly.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 videos on it. Now, the enemy AI is pretty interesting. Like their interactions with one another. I watched some interesting enemy AI coordination on Malice, that level difficulty. That's a level 3 difficulty. That was actually pretty solid. That I thought was, decent and just weird because everything else kind of is meh. I could link it to you at some point, and you could take a look at it. It's not very long.
Yeah, feel free.
Find it. Let me go back in my history. Trying to find it.
I got another caller waiting. Is it okay if you send it
to
me?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send it to you and like disconnect from the call, but like you can review it. I don't know if you want to play it or just review it or something, or just comment on it.
I'll look at
some
it
point.
and
I don't know, but I'll
Yeah.
talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get off. It was nice speaking.
Same. Oh, she dropped off before I could say properly. Bye. Bye, Havor. Have a good day. Nico, welcome to the stream. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Had me some damn good barbecue that was not fixed later.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, the whole fix it later mentality is just it's getting ridiculous at this point. It's just, because I feel like outside of what I just said, the fact that even with all the fixes you have, there are fundamental issues with some games. Now, now I've not played Darktide yet, and who knows, maybe I never will. But fundamentally the gameplay loop does seem like fun and all that. But okay, so you have constant crashes, you have fucking glitches up the ass and all that. It's like,
DCs
okay,
as well.
So,
DCs as well, because you have
Oh, yeah,
crashes, which is when the whole game goes down, and you have to
Mhm.
reopen everything just to play again. Or you have
Oh.
DCs, which is where it just cuts you out of the match and like restarts, but the game doesn't close.
yeah. Yeah, at that point it's like, should I praise you? Should I praise you that you fixed your fuck up at this point? It's I don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, like with that has been my experience, and that's why like when I get that comment or where I see that with people defending the game, they're like, "Oh well, for me the gameplay loop is just so fun," and it's like, okay, but how can you enjoy this loop that you praise so much if you're disconnecting in the middle of hacking up poxwalkers? How can I enjoy this delicious heretic / fuck up if my game crashes and I see my desktop when I was just in the middle of trying to blow a hole through a demon of Nurgle's head? Like, how can I enjoy that loop that you praise so much when it is interrupted every few seconds or every match at least once? The loop can be amazing and fantastic, but if you can't actually experience it, it might as well not even be there. So that's my thing. Like I don't understand how people can completely ignore the whole DC and crash issue and just forgive it when they talk about the game.
And when it comes back, it's just like, oh, thank you, came from the heavens, all fixed up. It's so nice. But also, I feel like this will be just. I don't think anyone's gonna learn anything from this, even if they do fix it. Because when the next game comes out, because I absolutely do believe they're gonna make another. Whether it's not Darktide, it's gonna be something else, another Vermintide or something. I think this is gonna happen again, and we'll have this same conversation again, and no one like learns anything. It's because everyone just forgets so freaking easily. And
the thing is, gamers are fickle. That's a big thing. Some things hit the communities and gamers hard enough that we don't forgive and forget, but it's rare. The only example that comes to mind immediately is loot boxes. Like gamers, not universally, but near universally pushed back hard on those to the point where so many developers are removing them as potential game design portions, and now they're replacing them with battle pass systems with like a premium version versus like a free version, quote unquote. They found a new way to monetize this that isn't as immediately disgusting.
It's not loot boxes, it is the battle pass.
And to be fair, battle pass, as much as I hate certain battle passes, I'm looking at you, Overwatch 2. As much as I hate certain battle passes, they are definitely better than loot boxes, because you know what you're gonna get when you invest money or not. Like, it shows you. With loot boxes, it's literally the same thing as just pulling a lever at a what do they call those? Chinko machines? Chinko machines? The machines in Vegas.
Yeah. Those. I was just gonna call them Skinner boxes because basically that is kind of what it is already. It's just like, oh yeah, I can maybe get this thing and maybe it'll be worth it or maybe not. Oh, it's beyond. But also it's just with this. What was the development time of this game? Because I find it. Because again, with how gamers are willing to forget so freaking easily. So now with some games that are released in poor condition, there are some out there that I can forgive a little bit, mind you, a little bit. So with something like say Fallout New Vegas, right? They only had 18 months to make an entire fucking game, and they had to make it. It's like that is not a lot of fucking time. And it was playable, but fucking glitchy. But they did, of course, try and fix it post with all the DLC and all that. Now compare that with Cyberpunk 2077, 8 years, and the condition it was in. Just what the fuck?
So I just looked it up for you real quick. So the development of the game was announced in 2020, so that tells me the game was in development for at least 3 to 4 months before that. Usually they're in like 6 months development before they like announce a game. But let me be forgiving and say maybe it was only like 2 months before their official announcement. They announced that they were working on it in July 2020. So that tells me that the game was probably started in development in late 2019, and they finished it just before 2023. In November of 2022. Right. Well, they finished in air quotes, sorry.
In air quotes, I mean. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's just... Yeah, it's just, I don't know what to say other than I'm hoping that someone... Well, I don't know much more to say other than, yeah, I hope someone will stop with this mentality already. Just can we finally critique a game when it is released? Like by all means, we can forgive. We can certainly forgive, early access being kind of shit when it's indies. But with big studios, with multiple amount of people, more budgets than any indie studio could ever possibly have. It's like, can we stop with that?
I wish, and I hope we get to the point where gamers are actually ready to say, no, I'm not buying a product until it's released, done, and not a buggy piece of crap. But it's, again, one of the, not to blackpill anyone too much, but the gaming sphere and the communities around them are full of people who... Copium, like that term we use and throw around to insult each other with, it's incredibly true, right? Like it's you see it in so often, especially nowadays, where a game comes out and again with objective facts can be shown to be terrible and mismanaged, horribly run, and the update plans are often sparse or crazy or change at the drop of a hat. Games come out in just worse and worse conditions, but gamers, instead of rallying together and being like, no, we don't accept this, we not only see people just accept it and continue playing and continue purchasing, but you also see something far worse. And I think this, to me, shows that we're not going to see a change in this mentality for a very long time. And I don't mean long time in internet terms. I mean in long time in actual years. It might be decades, quite honestly, with how bad the mentality is right now. And who knows, maybe I'm being a little too pessimistic, but I think it'll be a literal decade or more before gamers stop having this copium mentality of like, oh, this game is absolute trash. Oh, it's just a beta. It leaves beta. It's still trash. Oh, they're gonna fix it later. 2 years go by, they've barely fixed even the most basic of issues people initially had. Oh, well, they're gonna fix it eventually. Have faith. Be patient. And they can't accept. And a huge part of it is they don't want to feel dumb. Let's be honest. These people who defend these games, these studios, these products, they're not really doing it for the studio, for the product. A part of them might be. They might have played a game or a product they had produced before and were like, oh my god, this cheered me up during a dark time and now I feel like I owe the studio something. I think that's a part of it, but I think the biggest part of it is investment. These people are those who bought the games themselves, and now that they can see for themselves it's garbage, they don't want to admit that. Because that would also come with admitting that they purchased a dumb thing. They made a bad purchase. It's more of a narcissism, if you ask me, for why people do this copium-based defense of terrible games and terrible products. It's because they bought it. They don't want to feel like a clown. They don't want to feel like someone who got taken advantage of. So rather than admit that they were fleeced, they defend it. Because it's at that point more about their image, how they perceive themselves, and that they are smart enough to make good choices of purchases and stuff like that. So I think that's really the crux of the issue. And overall, I don't see that changing. Like, no time soon.
I mean, I think, yeah, that's also the issue. It's just like when you need to defend like the companies, because none of, like, maybe Fat Shark is not the worst company in the world, but with some of them like EA, Ubisoft, and all that, it's like a lot of these also just shill for stuff like China, all this stuff. It's just, oh yeah, well, I need to shill this, okay? I need to justify this. It's like, no, okay? It's fine to say you made a bad purchase. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. Or hey, maybe you're reviewing it. Just be honest.
And I think that's what people struggle with, is the honesty aspect.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to be authentic nowadays because well, it just seems to, for a lot of people, it seems like sincerity is just laughed at, which I don't know why. I do not know why. Well, yeah, I really don't know why. Just be honest about the freaking product. It's fine. Yeah. And okay, I don't have much else to say, but hey, fun talking with you, man.
Yeah, as always, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. See ya.
Yeah. Always good having Nico on. Welcome. Let's see. Jacob, Wheezy Pillar. Is that everyone who's new? Rebellious Red, welcome. Goose was in earlier. Hope you're still here. Welcome. Ball, welcome. Welcome to everybody else new who joined the stream. I'm going to pull in Karn now. Before I do, Wheezy, you said, how could people hate Darktide so much but like Necromunda? That game is terrible. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of those people because I don't like Necromunda. I did jokingly one time on stream say it was like one of the best 40k games. So, you know, if anyone ever finds that clip and tries to use it against me, just know I was fucking with people. I was joking. But yeah, but to be clear, I think Necromunda, if we're talking about hired gun, 4 out of 10 at best. I think it's a 3 out of 10 on a bad day. And by the way, also, the footage in my video talking about Darktide latest update, I used Necromunda footage for the background. One commenter assumed I liked Necromunda because I used that footage. I used that footage because it was another terrible 40k game, and I had the footage in my hard drive for over a year. For fun fact, for certain videos, I literally just have like 12 videos of like maybe 20 to 30, maybe even 40 minutes worth of footage of different games I've played. Not all of it was recorded to be background footage, but I use it in the background of commentary videos, of update videos, things like that. I just have that footage there for anything. The only reason I delete that footage is either A, there's another game I think that would work better as footage for something else, or I just simply had the footage too long and my hard drive space is being taken up, so I deleted it then. But as of right now, I have like footage of that. I have footage of Mech Warrior. I have footage of me playing orcs. So all orcs must die. You know, things like that. I have a bunch of like random footage in there. And so just so you know, so anyone doesn't make themselves look stupid, don't assume because background footage is there that I recorded it the day before or I play that game regularly or it's a game I even like. Don't assume that because you would be wrong. It's just footage I happen to have. Unless I address it in the video verbally, don't make that assumption. But anyway, just want to make that clear. But, and also, to back up a little bit, yeah, Necromunda Hired Gun, 3 out of 10 on a bad day, 4 out of 10 in terms of like the best experience I had. It's janky as all hell. It's terribly optimized. It's a graphics hog. No, it's not good. It's not a good game. No, I think Necromunda is one of the worst games in a long time that I've played. When it worked, it was amazing, much like Darktide, but that's the caveat, when it worked. Which it really didn't. So anyway, now that I got that out of the way, Gilly Guy, welcome to stream. I didn't buy Darktide just because it's incomplete nature. Correct, and that's the mentality you should have, my friend. Anyway, playing Karn. Karn, welcome to the show. How you doing, my brother?
Yeah, not so much.
You're not doing much?
Nah, and
How's Moogly?
Mowgli's fine. My dog isn't, but that's a different topic.
What happened to you?
Off screen.
What happened to your dog? Okay.
So on topic. So how should I start this? I honestly don't think it's a fix later with many games these days.
Can you clarify what you mean on that so I know how to respond?
Because most games these days are not to get fixed.
Oh, okay,
They are going to make it playable, because those games like Vermintide, almost said it, Darktide, it's just a way to deliver in-game store. They are not there to wow you because this game is just Vermintide with a skin suit on. And I don't think there's going to be a fix that is going to make this game suddenly amazing. They might be trying to make it work, sorta, on high-end machines throughout the year, maybe. But they are not going to invest that much money into this game to make it mind-blowing.
Yeah, I that makes sense. And yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I don't take this the wrong way. I hope you're wrong. I hope the devs are as pompous and as arrogant as they have been in their responses. I do genuinely hope that they're looking at their game somewhat objectively behind the scenes and are looking to fix it, and actually make the whole not just playable, but really refine it. I hope they do that. But I don't think you're wrong though. Like that's what I hope, but I would say, if I'm being honest with myself and everybody, I don't think they're gonna do that. Because like again, if we use the Vermintide example, because that's the one everyone uses, like oh, that game came out terrible. Look how good it is now. Again, I don't think I don't think it's a good game. I think it's decent, but
like the Chaos Warriors are just Skaven with more HP and a different skin suit. They still hit you in melee.
Yeah, and when it comes to the complexity of missions, they don't really get that complex. Like,
no, go for A to B, hold off a horde,
hack and slash,
hack and slash. Fight maybe Grace. Once you are done with Grace, you maybe have someone who like farts at you.
But for those who don't know our in-joke, when we have played Vermintide 2 together, the Grace is what we call the Chaos spawn.
She's a big, beautiful woman, and you shall respect her.
Holy Grace.
I thought it was Amazing Grace.
Well, yeah, that's where we took it from, but Holy Amazing Grace. That's That is what we call the chaos spawn. Now you might take from that like, oh, you guys sound like you do enjoy that game. No, we enjoy memeing on that game together.
Yeah, we enjoy pretty much dumping on every game. Like even a bad
Yeah.
game, if you have friends with you, it's going to be suddenly fun because all of you are going to joke about it.
Exactly, and that's why I think games that rely on that as its backbone of enjoyment for like long periods of time are not necessarily bad games inherently, but I think they're cheating or cheaping out.
You can only beat a dead horse that much.
Yeah, like
Like,
in those
After a while, you get
games,
nothing back.
yeah, in those games like Darktide, like Vermintide, or even if we use another bad 40k game as an example, Deathwing, Space Hulk Deathwing. That game, I had fun playing that with you, Arctic, and Nathan back in the day.
I think you played not with me.
Did I not
Because I
play with
would have-
you? I know I played it.
No,
I know.
because
I know I played it with Arctic and Nathan. Was a ball who was
Most
up there?
likely Dragonus. I got
Dragonus?
Dragonus a ball.
I don't think it was Dragonus. Like it was.
Because I get the massive headache for playing Deathwing.
I don't
I'm
know.
not going to
It's-
reinstall that.
It's been so long, but though that's another example though alongside Darktide and Vermintide, is it's a group shooter game with your friends that you play and you kill things together, and that game was fun. Like I had fun playing Space Hulk Deathwing. Was it because the game was good? Fuck no.
No. You sit in the
No.
corridor and you just aim one way.
It was not because the game was good. It's because I played it with friends.
And the game was beautiful for the time.
Yeah.
I still say it's like one of the better environments in for a 40k game.
Yeah, like I hated. Like, I think that game sucks. So
But-
any game that relies on that element of playing with your friends definitely goes down quite a few points. Like, would people consider Vermintide 2 that good of a game if they didn't play with friends? Like, if you had no friends and you play that game completely solo, how long do you think the average person solo playing would enjoy Vermintide? I'd give it 20 hours max.
Discord hates my sound driver for some fucking reason.
Happens. But
Well,
yeah, like
voice.
games like that though, like with Vermintide, Darktide, I think so many people score their games so high because they're like, "Oh, I remember all these times I had this so much fun." It's like, yeah, but how many of those were because you were with friends, versus what the game actually provided you for an experience?
Yeah, it's just a different type of like emotional dependence, maybe. I need a different name for that because there are many games that, on its own, they aren't very good. Like the newer God of War games, I see as being kind of garbage. But because people can emotionally connect to like Kratos and the little one, it's the same thing as they are emotionally connecting to their friends when they are playing a game. Suddenly the game feels way better than it is.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people overpraise Vermintide too. And I think that's why some people are overly defending Darktide. And I think that's why people are going to defend games like this, no matter how bad they are objectively when they come out, because they're going to have those pocket experiences with their friends, and they're going to make the false connection that it was the game that made that so good. No, it was your friends.
And what will that lead to? It will lead to like false loyalty.
Yeah.
They will think, oh, if I buy this DLC, maybe it's going to fix it. But what if I buy this? I already supported this dev. I can support them a little bit more. They need the money to make the game better. Like, there is no incentive for the devs to actually fix the game. Because once you fix the game, what incentive is there to have those people come back? Then you suddenly have to make more interesting DLC or bigger DLC.
Yeah. You actually have to
And all of
make
that
content.
costs money. That costs money. You know what almost costs no money? Make a Krieger skin for the Ogren. And then you can still get $20 from it.
Yeah.
And you get $20 from a bunch of people.
$20 a pop.
Yeah.
Actually, the thing is, credit to Milk and Cookies TW or Total War for for his coverage of it, because he pointed out in the cash shop, the premium skins, the full skins, like top to bottom, if you want to buy the full set, is 2,400 Aquilas.
You cannot buy that.
For $20 on the cash shop, you can get 2,100 Aquilas. Or for $50, it's either 50 or 40, you can get 4,200, I believe.
Cool.
So you either will have too much to just buy the one set, or too
Not
little.
too little. And it's always by a little bit. You're always off by a little bit to make you, to try to convince you, just buy another pack or buy the bigger pack. And then something new comes out and you see, I got almost enough money to get it. And then you are incentivized to buy another like package on that.
They fixed that already? Okay, credit to them. Glad they changed that, but still.
Yeah, of course people complained about it. But it shouldn't be something we should be glad that they fixed.
It
They
shouldn't have
should
been
stay mad.
something. It shouldn't have been something that they needed to fix.
They got caught pants down.
Yeah, they got caught being scummy and got called out for it, and they tried and they fixed it, but only because. Can you imagine if people hadn't complained about it though?
Oh, if they haven't complained about it or haven't complained enough about it, I can see both. They would not change it.
Either way, they wouldn't have changed it. If people hadn't
But-
complained or hadn't complained enough, they would have left it there. So that's
But
why.
still, do they give you an alternative to grind it out without getting that stuff?
As far as I know, when it comes to the premium cosmetics, you can only buy them. I don't think you can grind. Maybe there's like an achievement system in the game. I don't know. I'd have to double check.
As far as I know, those only give you like necklaces or ugly stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if like there's an achievement thing in the game that gives you Aquilas, but I don't think so. I think that premium currency is strictly purchased with real world money. I don't think there's any way to earn it in game. But either
I
way,
don't know
that
you were, because you could play Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 alone with AI, and the AI in that game is actually pretty damn decent.
the thing is, like, when I compare how much people defend Darktide to the people, like Fallout 76 when that came out, right? Hardly anyone defended 76, other than, like, fucking Ludus.
I wanted to say that.
Other than Ludus, like, I can't think of anyone who defended 76 when it came out. But for Darktide, it has the exact same issue with the cash shop thing. Like, Fallout 76 had a cash shop, which worked for the most part when it came out. Actually, I think it worked completely fine when it dropped in the game. It had that, like, pricing bullshit and gouging crap. And
Oh, easy. I wouldn't play Tencent if I were you. It's not Tencent who put it in it. They might have demanded it, but they didn't program it in. It is still Fat Shark.
yeah, Fat Shark at the end of the day still put it in. And we can blame them for being the ones who demanded it and requested it. But Fat Shark put it in there, and they agreed to whatever contract they have with them. Thing is, we can only... I really... At the end of the day, I don't care who we blame here. We can blame Fat Shark, we can blame Tencent. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Everyone involved in this inherently made a bad game. At the end of the day, the product is bad. I stand by that. It's a bad game. Darktide is a bad game. And as I said earlier in the stream, I'll repeat it again. What's my criteria for a bad game? Does it crash? Are there DCs?
Do guns have...
If the answer is yes to
Damage.
either question, it is a bad game. Now, I know they fixed that up a lot over the first month or so of the game. They shouldn't be fixing something like that after launch. I can see them fixing it in an actual beta, not what they called a beta. That whole early access beta was crap. Okay, that's bullshit. That wasn't a beta. That was an early access period. The game you played in early access beta, quote unquote, was the finished game. Period.
Not even before. Because that's just a server test.
Yeah, that's the most that was. But an actual beta period, like 7 to 6 months before launch. Fixing those issues, those DC issues, those game crashes, that is when you fix that. That's when it's okay in a beta to make that argument like that you make. Oh, it's just a beta, bro. In that, I would let that go. I would let that go. Like, yeah, that is just a beta issue, bro. If it's 6 to 7 months before release and there's issues like that, fine. Fair point. It's just a beta. A week before launch, people were making the argument, it's just a beta, bruh.
No, it's not. Less fair than you. I'm a little bit less fair than you because I say that's an alpha issue. If your beta does it, you fucked up.
Yeah.
If I see that in the beta, I immediately know to.
Well, no, but in an actual beta, like the old school version of a beta, like 6 to 7 months before the game drops. Not the modern betas, which are a month before launch.
It almost depends on the type of crashes you are suffering, because certain crashes has to be ironed out during alpha.
Yeah. And like I said, I have just short of 40 40 crashes, and I have over 40 DCs from playing in Darktide. From the early access period, I'm not calling it a beta, the early access period to over a month after launch. That's my total of crashes and DCs. Put them together, I have almost 100 points where the game completely removes me out of its experience. That's more than a crash and DC a day. And I didn't even play it every day. So, again, I'll go back to what I was saying. Darktide is a bad game. You can't even play the game? Is that because you... like, are you jokingly saying that because you don't have the game? Or because you actually can't, like, play it right now? Either way. Good point.
Most likely both. It's most likely a forspoken problem where the game is so badly optimized you need hardware that's not even out.
Oh, yeah. Is there anything else you want to bring up, Karn?
No, that's mostly it.
I appreciate you coming on, my good man.
I appreciate being here.
Love
See
you.
later, my dude.
See you later. Okie dokie. Let me interact with chat here a little bit. I have no new callers, but I'll spam the link again. If anyone would like to give their 2 cents, not their 10 cent. I'll send myself out. Anyway, if I'd like to give you 2 cents on the topic, come right on in, jump in waiting call room 1, 2, or 3, and I'll pull you in and we'll have a nice chat. What does 10 cent have to do with it? Games banned? 10 cent own Fat Shark. I don't know if they own them in totality, but I know that at the very least they own them to a degree. Game won't work, so I got a refund. I envy you, Matthew. I really do. I wish I could get a refund for the game. I played it for too long. Wouldn't trust them to fix it later if they already have the money. I mean, yeah, that's generally what happens a lot with this. Is yeah, if they have the money, it's what kind of related to what Karn said earlier. And he said it himself. They're likely not going to truly fix the game. They're going to fix it, quote unquote, to the point where it's playable by most people's hardware, and then they're probably not going to add or do too much more to it after that. Outside of what they're certain is going to add to their overall pay-in. Basically, they're never going to invest more into the game than what's going to potentially come out of it. They're probably only ever going to work towards doubling their profits. I doubt that we're going to see anything better than that. FAL, welcome to the stream.
Ahoy. How are you?
I am doing kosher. How about you?
Yeah, a little bit sick. Because my daughter I don't know, virus from the kindergarten.
It's not the big C, is it?
No, it's some child disease stuff.
The child fever.
but nothing like Scarlet or whatever it is called stuff. It's just a little bit of the throat hurts and a little bit of fever, and so now I just make firstborn primaries. It just took some primaries bits and make firstborn incursors and infiltrators.
Nice. And I still got to finish my Blood Angels army for my 30k army.
It's a heresy.
Yep.
I won't get me started on heresy.
I wish my local hobby shop was hosting Horus Heresy games. So far, that's still just Age of Sigmar on a rare occasion. Although, I know this is wicked off topic for what we're here to talk about on the stream, but I'll just share this story real quick. My local hobby shop that I go to play 40k tournaments, they has tried to do Age of Sigmar tourneys because the 40k ones were doing so well. Like, they were selling out every single time. People were showing up, having fun, and we had full-blown tourneys for like the whole day. But they tried to do the same for Age of Sigmar. People signed up, but no one showed up. So
AOS sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I know plenty of people who like Age of Sigmar, at least to collect the armies, but if we're going basically just by my local hobby scene, you would think that nobody likes AOS.
To be honest, a friend of mine asked me today actually, hey, why don't you play Age of Sigmar? And I said, yeah, because I don't like it. Because I had Dark Elves and most of my Dark Elves aren't playable anymore. I had High Elves and Wood Elves. I had like all Elven armies. And like 70% of the entire armies and the complete High Elf range is just not playable anymore. Because my High Elf army was based around Kalidor, and so yeah, all the Draconis doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, Weezy says, Age of Sigmar? What's that? That's not a real thing. I wish. Oh, man. Anyway.
No, actually, about the Darktide stuff.
Yes,
Actually,
on topic.
I got the game, and I tried to play it, and it wasn't a hardware issue, because I could play stuff like Cyberpunk and Warframe and other games on like super hardcore mega high definition, and it was just like 120 FPS most of the time.
Yeah, the same for me for the most part. Like, Cyberpunk being the exception, but I could play Cyberpunk, and I can currently play Cyberpunk on max settings. But when it came out, I could it was crashing and breaking, but not because of my graphics setting, because I tried lowering them to see if it would help. It did nothing. So, but yeah, generally speaking, like, I can play most games on max settings, like ultra settings, and have no problem. Even though, again, I have a 20 series graphics card. Like, I have a 2080 Super.
Yeah, and the issue with Darktide, I always want to say Vermintide.
Yeah, because I think it's because we're so used to Vermintide. Like, it's the game we've had for the longest time.
Vermintide worked actually. Every time I played Vermintide, I wasn't like disconnect, game crash. And it's what like 30 minutes of disconnects and game crash, and then I said, you know what? Some German words that are not really like usable on YouTube.
The hard
and
cussing.
then I refunded the game, and just said to a friend of mine, because they wanted to play it with 3 mates of mine, and she said, you know what? And they said, no, what? I just take the money from Cyberpunk and just buy some Dawn of War 1 IPs for every, because some of them didn't have Dawn of War 1, and let's just play Dawn of War 1. It's a better investment.
You're a good man. Just get Dawn of War.
It was just like,
y'all want to play
Dawn of War
40k
1.
together? Yeah. Here's Dawn of War. Fuck Darktide. Here you go. Oh,
and they were like, oh god, the graphic is so, oh my god, but the game is so good. Yeah, Dawn of War 1.
Yeah, I think that's very much like indicative of how things are, right? It's like back in the day, we had games that, especially if you compare them to now, looked like dog shit, but they were so fun and refined and polished. Not perfect. It's not like the record back in the day was 0 and 100. We certainly had some buggy, terrible games from back in the day, but generally speaking, if we look back, some of the best games of all time were from over a decade ago. And we look at
Just
Warcraft
imagine.
3, look at StarCraft 2, you look at Dawn of War 1.
Games one of the best games for like console gaming, like gameplay and story wise, was actually the Wind Waker Legend of Zelda. I hated the graphic, but the game itself was so good.
Yeah, I think that shows how the industry has changed. The industry used to be dedicated and focused on making like the best games. Now, the industry is about, does it look pretty? Oh, okay, it looks pretty, but it's about as hollow and as it has the depth of a puddle. Who cares? It looks good. Throw it on there.
There's like this one I don't know, new game from Square Enix, I think, Forspoken or something like that, and
Forspoken.
the people are cringing and wheezing about this game, and then I think about wasn't the next Final Fantasy also isn't there like Naoki Yoshida on board on the next?
Yeah, he's working on Final Fantasy 16, I think it is.
And I thought like, okay, Forspoken is from Square Enix, from what I know. Dog shit. And cringe, yeah. And then you have like the next Final Fantasy, and they said, yeah, the game will contain violence and stuff and this and that, and it will be gruesome at some points. But I know who is on board on that game, and it's like those are people that like to write a good story.
Again,
especially when you have someone like Naoki Yoshida who was like, okay, that's Final Fantasy Online. How to save it? Let's burn it.
Yeah, and he had the right approach. Apologize to everybody, say fuck it, burn it all, rebuild. That is how you know you had a good leader, because he was willing to do something so drastic. But it's
actually the best thing with Vermintide. Let the hive explode and remake it.
I mean, honestly, here's the thing: if Fat Shark were to say tomorrow, listen, we've been assholes about this, we've been arrogant, we pushed a game out before it was ready. They don't. God knows they're never going to admit that it was because of Tencent. They can't. I'm sure there's someone in their contract where it says do not blame Tencent for anything. But if they just came out and said something as simple as, listen, we did a bad, let us fix it. We're going to leave the current build accessible to those who are able to play it and have fun, but in the background, we're going to try and rebuild this thing. Or just in the background, we're just going to work our butts off, and the moment we have a mega patch where we're going to drop it, when we know the whole game for everybody is going to work at least on a basic level. I would have more respect for that than what they're currently doing.
To be honest, I remember times, for example, like Blizzard, when they had like patches for World of Warcraft, and people said, when is the release? And people said, it's done when it's done.
I miss those days.
Yeah, and to be honest, they're like Warcraft or Blizzard, they're like two indicators that I actually liked in the last few years. I'm not like fanboying or something, but I'm like 2% more positive. Because they brought Chris Metzen back as an advisor and as an employee at Blizzard for lore and game design, and they are not in league with the. To be honest, I'm sad about the Chinese player that can't play anymore, but they aren't in league with the Chinese censor super uber mega. What was it? Tencent?
Actually, yeah. Well, I believe it was Tencent for that as well. Yes. But
yeah, and to be honest,
when I first heard about that,
the Chinese market.
Yeah, when I first heard about that, I thought because all I saw initially was the clip from the stream from Tencent where they streamed themselves taking down the statue of Gorehowl, which was.
You mean when they were salty as fuck?
Yes, when they took down the statue of Gorehowl, which is Hellscream's Gramash Hellscream's weapon. And when I saw them do that, and like I thought Blizzard had separated the ratio, I was like, holy crap, how based. They're finally actually trying to fix themselves, and they went so far as to drop. No, it was actually different. They were trying to find somebody else who would take them in China, so they tried to ditch Tencent. When they couldn't find anybody, they tried to extend their contract, even though they were perfectly open about not keeping Tencent as their Chinese partner. The relationship got severed because they offended them.
Yeah, but to be honest, isn't that like normal in corporate that you try to make a better deal?
Yeah, that's perfectly normal. That's actually kind of why I'm surprised. I feel like we're missing some part of that story because
Yeah, but to be
Tencent,
honest,
I get that
like,
sorry, go ahead.
no, it's just about most of the time when I hear stuff about like some parts about like this like government. It's like every time someone is criticizing, it's some like they start throwing around some istophobe words because they you hate this, you hate that. They're doing the social justice 100% turnaround boogaloo electric stuff. It's like you are against us because this and that, and in actually like you know who is without fault can throw the first stone in that regard.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, back to Darktide. Is there anything else you want to say about that, man?
Yeah, to be honest, they should just stick to the mistake and say, okay, you know what, give us some time. Just make a statement. It's not Tencent, it's all our fault. Ooh, or something like that.
Hi, Sir Grow Castle. Welcome to stream. Yeah.
And then I would say, yeah, just burn and crash it and say, yeah, the hive was exploded. You're on a new planet now, and this time it works.
Yeah.
Just don't name it Hive something. It's to be honest, Hive cities. It's like Hive Primus, Hive Secundus. Wow, it's so hard to make another one. Just take another one from the Greek or Latin alphabet.
I mean, as much as I want to critique that from a lore perspective, I mean, you're kind of right. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, man. I hope you feel better, by the way.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Gilly guy, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, actually.
So the thing about this whole like situation is it's kind of reminded me about why I stopped being into video games, because like I used to be like really into them, and I got tired of all the day one downloads and the overpriced DLC and blah blah blah. So I got into
updates
like
every other day.
games. Yeah. So I got into like tabletop games, and in a way, I've kind of seen this stuff creep into them as well with Games Workshop doing that, like the Space Wolves Codex. We all remember that, you know.
Oh yeah.
So and you know that's this game. It's like if you ask me what's a game you would want to see made, and I'm like a Left 4 Dead in 40K, you know. But I haven't bought it because I'm just like I looked at all the kind of BS that was attached to this game, and I'm just like I'm not funding that, you know.
Yeah. And the thing is, I have no doubt the game will be, quote unquote, as good as Vermintide 2. Again, I hold true to my opinion that Vermintide 2 is not even a good game. It's a decent game, but play it solo. How good is the game if you just focus on the game versus playing it with friends and how fun it is with friends? This type of game, and it's not just Vermintide 2, it's not just Darktide, it's a lot of games in this kind of genre, rely on you to play with friends to get the most out of it. You take away that your friends and you play with randos and you just play for the gameplay, it gets stale within an hour, 2 hours tops. For some people with a very specific mentality, they can play for like 20 hours. But for most people, how many, like Vermintide 2, how many of the Skaven slaves do you slash and destroy in a row before you finally like, I've been clicking this button for the last 2 hours and seeing the exact same thing over and over again. I'm done. But if you play with friends, you can play for like 20 plus hours because friends make everything better. That's why they're your friends. So it's
Well, I mean that's the thing is I am that guy. I'm the guy who can play a Left 4 Dead campaign like by himself, you know, and have fun with it because I love the atmosphere so much, and the atmosphere of this game is fantastic. I listen to the remixes and stuff people have been making of it.
That is one
But
thing
it's
I'll
like,
never
you know,
dispute.
it's
Darktide has the best music, and when the game doesn't crash because you're trying to look at it, pretty amazing scenery. It's really, really good. I just don't think that makes it a good game. I think a good game is one that functions, and again, my basic criteria for it being a bad game or not: does it crash? Does it DC? The answer to either is yes, then it is a objectively bad game. and Darktide fits that criteria. Still does, unfortunately. So,
well, it's also just that feeling of like being sort of, I guess, just taken for granted. It's like, here, we made your stupid game. Now give us the money, you know?
yeah, and I think that's what has added salt to the wound for a lot of people. It added a little bit to me, but for me, the game just being as bad as it is when it came out was the only burn I really needed to walk away with the decision not to play it anymore and to not really give it a chance in the future. In your case, you said you can play like these multiplayer shooters type games even without friends and enjoy it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so for you, I would say definitely get the game on sale. Like in the future, if it's on sale during a Christmas season, or if there's just like a spring sale or anything like that, you see it drop down by like half, get it. Absolutely. But for full, even at $40, it's not worth the asking price. It's just way too dysfunctional.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't mind paying what it's worth. You know, it's just not worth full price.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean... Oh, crap, I lost my train of thought just now. Damn. I had something I wanted to say, but it went... gone. Okay, well, is there anything else you want to say?
I think there's probably was, but I don't think I can think of anything either.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, Gilly Guy, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, I had a train of thought and just gone. Like it was like a full thing too. It wasn't even like just like one quick thing. It was like a full sentence, and it just gone. Slipped right out of the noggin. Is there mod support? I don't know if there's any mod support for Darktide. I don't think so. Maybe they'll add that, but usually with online service style games like this, they don't do mods, and they certainly don't do mod support. Usually, at least I think. Mainly because, mods are other people modifying their game, and if it's like a competitive online shooter, even if it's against AI, typically studios are super like, no, don't touch our game. If you do, we'll sue you. If it's a single player game, lots of developers don't give a damn. Like, Bethesda are the best example of this, right? Like, so many, if not all of their games are moddable, and people go ham with it. And the devs are like, go right on ahead, make the game better yourselves. We don't have to pay you a cent. What do you think about playing with siblings or other relatives? I mean, depends. Like, if you have like a brother or a sister around your age that likes to play video games, I mean, that to me sounds like you just have a homegrown friend to play with. And if anything, because of the sibling element, you're more competitive, right? I know that back in the day, me and my sister used to play split screen COD Black Ops 2, and we also played MW Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 3. We played together all the time, and sometimes it was versus, sometimes it was just playing survival mode in MW3, and we just had a blast. Like, my sister is not a hardcore gamer. She's a gamer by all stretch. Like, she plays like every day when she's not at work. She's basically either watching Star Trek, watching other like nerdy stuff, or she's playing Skyrim. She like plays Skyrim like exclusively right now. But growing up, we played Warcraft 3 together. We played multiple shooters together, like Command & Conquer Renegade. We played that together. Like my sister was my main friend when it came to playing video games. I had other friends, obviously, who came over. We'd play video games. We'd shoot the shit and we'd do stuff like that. But my sister was my best friend for a lot of things. She was also my mortal enemy. But yeah, I loved playing with her. And we're 5 years apart. She's 5 years older than I am. She was an adult when I was in high school. But we still found time to hang out together. One of the few things we were able to bond over was playing video games. So, I'd say what I think about it is it's great if you could do it. Of course, if you're trying to like play a video game with your grandparent, for example, it might not work out as well. Like, if you're trying to get old granny to play MW2, I don't think she's gonna be that handy with the claymore. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Like, actually, that would be one heck of a funny story if someone did like have this epiphany one day and be like, "Hey, Grammy, here's a controller. I want you to play MW2." And then, like, she tops the scoreboard, but like at first she's like, "What are these magic buttons?" And then, like, the end of the match, she's got like 80 kills and she just sniped everybody. I'm sorry, I really want that to be like a true story that happens to somebody someday. And she's like, "Oh, what a nice game, Jimmy. That was quite a fun." And Jimmy's just like, "Grammy, don't ever play this again." "Was I that bad?" "No, quite the opposite." Oh, crap. I entertain myself way too much. Oh, man. That's funny. What Star Trek is my sister's favorite? Don't judge her for this. There's a lot of reasons for it, and I kind of defend this a little bit, but her favorite is Voyager, I'm pretty sure. Before anyone judges her for that, one of my favorites is Voyager. I know a ton of people hate Voyager, and I see why. Like, I don't think Voyager's the best objectively. It's one of my favorites because of nostalgia. It's the one me and my sister watched together. Like, that was one of our shows when we were growing up. Like, we had 4 major shows that were me and her's bonding experience. One was Star Trek Voyager. That's me and her's show. When we were really little, it was Power Rangers Ninja Storm. That was me and her bonding, like, show. And the other 2, I'm not going to share, because they're actually kind of silly. But, well, actually, no, I'll share one. One of the other ones is Avatar The Last Airbender, when it was very first airing, by the way. Because that came out when I was a kid. Like, on TV. Like, every week we got a new episode as it was airing, and we watched that together. So, and there's one other show, and I'll keep that one to myself, because it's kind of silly, but it's fun. But yeah, those were like the shows that we bonded over. So the reason I consider Voyager one of my favorites and why it's definitely hers is because of our bonding experience over it. Yes, Janeway is probably one of the more shakier captains, especially since her attitude and behavior and calls kind of changed episode to episode for a lot of the show. And yes, there is a lot of cringy moments that don't really happen in the other series, but I think, like, it's not that bad. Certainly it's better than any of the modern shows that you can think of. Like, the worst elements in Voyager pale in comparison to the worst elements in any given show that comes out nowadays. So I definitely cut it for some slack, and plus nostalgia points. But I would say my favorite outside of, like, the nostalgia goggles is probably Star Trek. Well, this might surprise some people, and I kind of go back and forth. But Star Trek Deep Space Nine is my favorite. Best characters, best story arcs. The war with the Dominion is, like, in terms of an overall arc, is like one of the best things I've ever seen on television. Just absolutely amazing. Not even just great for Star Trek, but it's great, period, for television. It was just so amazing. It almost felt like Stargate. Like Stargate SG-1. It kind of felt like that at times in Deep Space Nine. So I love it. Second would be, again, nostalgia goggles being taken out, would probably be TNG. Third would be Voyager, and fourth would be Enterprise. And then everything else kind of falls in line after that. But those are, like, my favorites. And it's really hard for me to say, like why one's better than the other. And sometimes I think Enterprise is better than Voyager, but then I remember the nostalgia points. So yeah, I go back and forth. Deep Space Nine still hurts to see a Galaxy-class ship get destroyed. Pretty sure that's TNG. And wait, are you referring to a specific episode? Wish you could kill Teletubbies for the Emperor. I mean, can't you buy can't you buy, like, the little, plushies of the Teletubbies and just, simulated violence? Deep Space Nine is your favorite too? Oh, I get it. Okay. Revenge of the Sith is your favorite Star Trek? Okay. Shout out, you guys. Alright, so I'm assuming that is everybody on show. Yeah, so I think we're all set. Thank you guys. Well, I know Caboose wanted to come on, but I have no one else in call. I've said my piece on this topic. I was really hoping one of the people in the comment section of my previous video would come here and like apply their defenses, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. Yeah, nobody who was very, very stalwart with me in my last video about like Darktide being a good game objectively showed up today, so it's unfortunate. I would have liked them to come on, and I mean that. Like, having that debate was part of my goal with today's stream. Just wanted to well, the thing is, one of the ones I'm thinking of anyway, I thought was fairly decently minded. He did say I was rude to him over a very innocuous statement where I told him be careful when assuming, because he's the guy I mentioned who, assumed I liked Necromunda because I had hired gun footage in the background of that video. I laid out for him that footage is over a year old, and just because it's in the background doesn't mean it's an advocacy for it. So all I told him was be careful when assuming, and his takeaway was, well, that's a rude statement. Perhaps my ideal is like to be fair, I'm a grade school teacher. Well, I'm a substitute grade school teacher. I deal with kids all day from the ages of 9 to 13. Actually, I think the oldest kid in the school is 14. But regardless, I deal with those age ranges every day. I know what, like, rude statements and rude comments sound like. An innocuous statement like that is not really rude. Come to the school I teach at any day of the week. You want to hear rude, go there. Oh my god. Well, I think that was a rude statement. It's like, have you been to a grade school? Everyone should say yes, because everyone was in one at one point themselves. But, no. I mean, I might joke about the kids, but I think most of the kids are pretty cool. Most days. I want to enjoy being a substitute more, but the kids really don't respect substitutes. I think a lot of the time they struggle to understand that a substitute doesn't mean, therefore, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. It just means I am a visiting teacher. I'm still a teacher. My authority is the same as their normal teacher. I think a lot of the time the kids struggle with that. And I don't even know if it's a conscious thing. It might just be like subconscious, because they hear substitute. And I think their brain kind of just shifts off with that. Anyway, I'm way off topic here. I'm not talking about that, bro. On your private Discord, you deal with children between 20 and 50. That's true. You're a great example of that. Isn't that true, Curran? You're suicidal if you teach middle school. I mean, that's dark. I'm not going down that route. Never mind. I was gonna make some jokes, but no, that's probably not. Probably don't want to go down that route. That's a dark route. That's a dark route. No. Sorry, I won't bring it up again. No, it's on stream, and recently the kids found my YouTube channel. Actually, I think one of them is here. Yeah, I think Matt. I'm not going to point them out, but there is like one of the kids from the school is actually in my chat right now, and a couple of them have joined. Oh, I say a couple. One has joined one of my Discords. So the kids are here. So I don't want to talk about too much of that stuff on here, because I don't want the kids to hear it all. I'm not going to censor myself. I wish the kids would, I've warned a few of the kids that I've been able to catch with it at the school. Hey, this, my channel, especially my Discords, are for like adults. And I don't want them going there for safety, air quotes, reasons. Not, obviously their physical safety is not in danger, but I don't want them to be exposed to too much conversations that they don't really need to see or hear at their age. Oh yeah, like I said, some of the kids are pretty cool. It's sometimes they just they're bored when they're at school, right? They don't want to be there. So they take out their frustrations of being bored and stuff on the teachers. And just generally on not wanting to be there. That's normal. Still learning and growing. Yeah. Yeah, there. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the kids are just, they're the kids. I wish I, could be more fun with them, but at the same time, like, it's balancing out, like, trying to keep their behavior reasonable and having fun, right? Like, if I could, like, I'd go every day and I'd be like, hey, I want to play a game, let's do this, let's do that. But, when you're at school, it's like a job. It's certainly a job for me, but it's also a job for the kids. It's a setting for the kids to learn how to grow up. And, take responsibility, do their homework, get good grades, all that boring stuff. And yeah, sometimes when they say stuff like, oh, I'm never going to use this in real life, sometimes they say it with stuff that they will use and they don't even realize it. But then they say it on stuff that is objectively something they won't use. And, sometimes it's like, how do I argue with that? But I don't know, I'm way off topic. Teach them 40k lore. I mean, they found my channel, so I already technically am. Some days I go there and I have a blast. Some days I go and I'm exhausted. But today was a good day. And I lucked out. Today I taught gym. Can't get more fun than that. Like, it's just literally the games are playing. They're literally just playing games for like the whole class. You cannot ask for a better class. Even then, I think a lot of the kids don't like gym, which is weird. Gym was my favorite subject when I was a kid. Why? Because I didn't have to do any boring homework. Gross, gym. Hey, gym is fun. Okay, kids, if Yark slays 3 war bosses and 5 landed on the planet, how many Xenos does he still... Yeah, learning how to learn is the most important thing. Yeah. It's all basketball growing up. And these kids love basketball. Oh, Caboose. Oh, who knows? What do you know? What do you know? Me just talking about my day actually gave him time to show up. All right, let's see if we can get back on topic with this. Caboose, welcome to stream. How you doing?
What? Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I just got home.
All right.
Ugh,
Welcome home.
thank you. Yeah, Fat Shark, if you look at all of Fat Shark's previous games, they've all been shit. Not one game have they released that has played well at launch. And honestly, I think the only reason they got rid of it with got away with it with Vermintide 1 and 2 is because nobody cares about the old world. There's a reason it got nuked.
I'm gonna argue with you on that point. I think a lot of people care about the old world.
In tabletop, yes, I will agree with you. But what old world games did we have besides Warhammer Online?
Total War, all of them.
Vermintide came out before that.
True.
No, I'm trying to say, before Vermintide came out, what normal Warhammer, old world games were there? Warhammer Online and maybe a Panzer General-esque game.
Was Fire Warrior before? Fire Warrior before Vermintide. No, that's 40k.
Yeah, Fire Warrior, the Tau.
I'm trying to think. Old world.
Yeah.
No,
the only one I could remember that was really popular was Warhammer Online. and that's popular in the States. There were probably some like Omega games or Omega CD drives that were released in Europe only that never made its way over. But in terms of old world content, it's like
Yeah, they really don't got anything. I'm trying to. I was trying to think, but nothing's coming.
yeah, it's just, you know, they got away with it because it's the old world. Nobody really knew about it, and oh well, it'll get better. It will get better. I'm like, no, but unfortunately, the it will get better. Don't worry about it, bruh, is here to
Yeah.
stay. Because consumed informed gamers like you, me, Karn, everybody else in the Discord are the minority now. We're, you know, where gaming used to be curtailed to the nerds like you and me, now it's for every dude, bro. I just 360 no-scope that guy. Died like 72 times to get one shot, but dude, it was so awesome.
You went full South
That's
Park
what-
character there.
I know, and I did that on purpose.
Good.
But that's what gaming caters to now. Is the COD dude, bro. And yes, I mean that as derogatory as that could possibly happen.
I never thought that we would be calling COD players the dude bros of the gaming sphere.
Well, they
Here we are.
are. It's, you know, with Call of Duty, it's like every year, new game, every year, same bullshit, no innovation. It's like, oh, well, let's see, Modern Warfare 2 plays the same as Black Ops, plays the same as this, plays the same as that. Multiplayer-wise, it's all the same fucking game. It's the exact same gameplay loop since Modern Warfare 2. Level up, prestige, level up, prestige, level up, prestige, level up, prestige. And you have to do that every single fucking year. It gets old.
The thing is, those series survive so long, though, because a new generation always picks up the latest one.
Well, it's also, you know, Call of Duty has become the Madden of shooters.
It's been the Madden of the shooters. Pretty much
Well,
since World at War,
yeah.
I would argue.
I wouldn't say World at War because World at War was actually really good. I think more like when really good sequels started getting sequels. You know, Modern Warfare was awesome, but it was bare bones. You get Modern Warfare 2, cool. You get Black Ops, cool. It's when you start getting the Modern Warfare 3s, the Blops 3s, you know, it's like, oh, this is where we're going. Yay. This is just, how do you not get your soul crushed? And unfortunately, there are no good 40K video games out. Modern,
I was about to say Dawn of War. I mean, actually,
I mean, even
one...
Dawn of War has a stain on it.
Well, with 3, yes, but with the original 2, it was pretty damn good with the original 2. Space
The
Marine,
original 2 were good.
Space
Space
Red,
Marine.
good point, 2. You also have, there actually is a brand new one, Shoot as Blood and Teeth. That one's awesome. Granted,
Yeah, that is good.
It's a very...
bare bones and simplistic, but you don't need it to be...
Yeah. And going back to the whole graphics point about like modern games caring more about that, Blood and Teeth it looks like it would be a browser game from 3 to 4 years ago. but it's just
It probably was a browser game from 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah, but they refined it to the point where the gameplay feels so good. Like that is a great example of what I've been saying, and it's a game that didn't give two craps about graphics. Yeah, obviously, it has a style, and they gave a crap about like how it looked with the style, but at the end of the day, it's a game that was trying to be a fun game. It wasn't trying to blow your socks off with the latest and most realistic graphics. It's pretty clear where its focus was, and that's why it did so well, and that's why I would put it up in my top 5 40K games, next to Dawn of War, next to
But we've had a drought of 40K games that have just sucked.
Mechanicus. Yeah, we've had quite a few, unfortunately.
I mean, we get gems like Blood and Teeth, Mechanicus, and you can play Mechanicus on your fucking phone.
Can you? Is it an app?
Yeah, I have it on my Samsung tablet.
I did not know that. Makes sense though.
But we get stuff, we get stuff like Aeronautica Imperialis Flight Command released, all support dried up for it. We get Necromunda Hired Gun, all this stuff that comes out, and it's just like, oh, cool, this is cool. Space Hulk Tactics, not even the more far superior Space Hulk Ascension that you can't even buy anymore.
These Necromunda Hired
But
Gun
Space Hulk
is garbage.
To you, yes. It actually worked for me.
Okay.
But it did.
Okay.
I mean, it worked okay. I mean, it is what it is. What do you want? It's a single-player looter shooter. It's Doom in 40K. They got the atmosphere and the gun customization right. That's about it. But, 40K games, you got to keep going back. Space Marine, I mean, Inquisitor, Gladius, Dawn of War. My favorite is always going to be Armageddon, a Panzer General's clone.
I can't comment on that one. I haven't played that one.
Oh, it's a good game. Yes, very good game. Every tank in the Imperial Guard at your command. But then you get Darktide and Vermintide. It's like it's supposed to be a Luda shooter or a Luda melee. I'm not getting any good loot. It's like, oh, well, you need to play on the hardest difficulty, and you need to be the number one. You need to do this, and this in order to get this. And it's like, I just want a hammer to hit people with. Yeah, well, you're not good enough to get the hammer. It's like,
The biggest issue is the crashing in DCs, which they fixed up a lot.
Well,
but
especially.
They shouldn't have to fix that.
Which one,
after
Vermintide or Darktide?
Darktide. They both had that issue to begin with, but Darktide's the most recent one, and the only one out of the two I've experienced the launch. And it's been bad enough. I'm writing the game off. I'm not playing it again. And the thing is, I pointed this out earlier. I don't think Vermintide 2 is a great or good game. I think that game entirely relies.
It's a horrible game.
Horrible. No, I wouldn't even call it bad. It's just not good. Decent is the
play it by yourself for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's my point. It's not fun for playing by yourself. It's not meant to be played by yourself. And I think games that rely on that social group element as much as Vermintide and Darktide and any of those types of games rely on that element, that shows their value, to be honest. If you rely on your playing with friends to make your game fun, then you failed. Because it's not the game that's fun. It's playing with your friends.
Oh, yeah. and it just keeps getting worse. And then you have everything with what you would call it, loot boxes. The only reason people finally rallied against loot boxes is because they effed with Star Wars. It's the only reason anybody got really, really mad at loot boxes because of Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA.
That brought it to the forefront for sure. People were already pissed because of Overwatch.
Well, yeah, a lot of people were like, oh, we don't like this, we don't like this. Then it's all the progression and everything was unlocked via loot boxes in that game. And that's when the stuff hit the fan.
Yeah.
And people lost their GD mind. And that's I honestly think that's what killed the loot box.
They screwed
with Disney.
Yeah. And you're right.
And, nobody screws with the mouse.
Screw with the mouse, you'll get the hammer. Sick 'em, Pluto.
or that creepy pasta about the gas mask Mickey faces. Yeah, Disney, for whatever reason, made gas masks during World War II with the faces of Disney characters on them. Because that's not creepy.
Yeah, horrifying. Alright, man. I'm going to end the show here. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, Darktide is just...
It's a disappointment.
There's no rescuing it. Not unless... Not until Darktide 2. You have to do a complete ground-up rebuild.
And they
the gameplay loop
is
one. Yeah. Stop with the Nurgle. Stop with Nurgle. You have 3 other Chaos Gods. Give us something, anything. But oh look, zombies. I'm like, can we please stop killing zombies? There's only one game that really does that right in the modern, and I think that's COD Zombies. But back in the day, it was obviously the GOAT, Left 4 Dead.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just like, no more zombies.
It would be nice to see a more creative horde shooter. But anyway, thanks for coming on, Caboose. I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody else who came on the show today. Hope you all enjoyed. I'm going to call it here. Me and my buddy Ludus are going to play a game together. Hopefully he's still awake. But I don't know if he wants to stream it or just have it be the two of us. I'll talk to him about it. So, but if not, I will see you guys later. I'll probably stream tomorrow. But at the same time, I also got to do some stuff tomorrow in preparation for Saturday, because Saturday stuff is going down. Anyway, have an amazing evening, everybody. And hopefully you'll have an amazing night and Friday. Bye-bye.